She texted, "I don't love you anymore. Consider this goodbye." She sent it 15 minutes before my graduation ceremony started. I replied, "Understood." Then I cut all ties. 3 days later, she was waiting outside my office building, and the first sentence she said changed her whole face. "I'm Logan Parker, 36 years old, and until last week, I thought I was building toward marriage." My girlfriend Jordan Wells and I had been together for 3 years. We met at a digital marketing conference in Portland when I was transitioning from sales management. She was working in corporate communications for a mid-sized tech company. We started dating 2 months later, bought a house together after 18 months, built what I thought was a solid foundation. We'd talked about engagement rings seriously. I'd already started shopping, had my eye on a vintage Art Deco setting she'd admired in a jewelry store window months earlier. The last 8 months were the most intense of my professional life. I'd enrolled in an advanced digital marketing strategy certification program through Portland State's business school, the kind that transforms careers overnight. $15,000 investment, 8 months intensive, potential $25,000 salary increase within the first year. Jordan said she supported it completely, enthusiastically even, but her actions told a completely different story. She'd create what I started calling convenient emergencies during my study sessions. Her car would mysteriously break down right before my Saturday workshops, requiring me to drive her to her sister's house across town. Her best friend would have dramatic relationship crises that demanded immediate in-person support during my project deadlines. Her mom would call with urgent family matters that somehow always coincided with my most critical assignments. The pattern was so consistent it couldn't have been coincidental. I tried desperately to balance everything, but the program was designed to be completely immersive. That was explicitly the point. They warned us during orientation that relationships often suffered, that the workload would test every commitment in our lives. The final certification project alone consumed 6 intensive weeks. I was presenting it as part of my graduation requirements, defending 18 months of work in front of industry professionals and potential employers. The ceremony was scheduled for Saturday, May 18th at 10 a.m. Perfect timing for a spring graduation, perfect weather, perfect everything. I'd invited Jordan weeks ago, circled the date on our shared calendar, reminded her multiple times. She said she'd be there, promised she wouldn't miss it for anything. My parents, James and Susan Parker, were flying in from Phoenix, their first visit to Portland. My brother Ian was driving down from Seattle with his wife. It was huge for me, monumentally huge. Career pivot at 36 doesn't come with guarantees. This certification represented everything I'd been working toward since my early 30s crisis, when I realized sales management was slowly killing my soul. Late nights when I'd fall asleep over campaign analytics and conversion funnels, only to wake up at 2 a.m. with my laptop burning against my chest and Jordan shaking my shoulder, annoyed that I'd fallen asleep on the couch again instead of coming to bed. Weekends sacrificed to group projects and networking events. Social gatherings missed because I had presentations to prepare. Date nights postponed because I had code to debug or market research to complete. All of it building toward this single moment, and Jordan knew exactly how much it meant to me. We'd talked about it constantly during the application process 18 months earlier. She'd helped me draft my admission essay, brainstormed examples of leadership experience, celebrated with me when I got the acceptance email, or at least I thought she had celebrated. Looking back now, I wonder if her enthusiasm was ever genuine or just another performance. Friday night before graduation, I asked if she'd picked out what she was wearing to the ceremony. Something nice, I suggested, since she'd be meeting my parents formally for the first time. They'd video called before, but this was different. This was official introduction territory, the kind where first impressions matter for future family dynamics. "I haven't decided yet," she said, not looking up from her phone, where she was scrolling through Instagram stories with that vacant expression I'd started recognizing more frequently. "It's tomorrow morning. Just wondering what you're thinking." "I know when it is, Logan." "Okay, just checking. Want to coordinate colors or anything? I'm wearing my charcoal gray suit." She didn't respond immediately, just kept scrolling. When she finally spoke, her voice was flat. "I'll figure something out." That should have been my first real warning sign, but I was too focused on my presentation notes to process the implications. She went to bed around 9:30 p.m. without saying goodnight, without the usual kiss, without even looking in my direction. I stayed up another hour reviewing my speech one final time, making sure every transition was smooth, every statistic accurate, every joke appropriately timed. I'd been selected to speak on behalf of my cohort, representing 28 professionals who'd spent 8 grueling months together in this academic pressure cooker. It was an honor that came with terrifying responsibility. My classmates trusted me to capture their collective experience, to articulate what this journey had meant for all of us. The weight of that responsibility kept me awake longer than the anxiety about my own presentation. Saturday morning, I woke up at 6 a.m. sharp. Graduation was at 10, but I needed to be there by 8:30 for lineup, final sound checks, and coordinator briefings. The morning felt charged with possibility, electric with anticipation. This was it, the culmination of everything I'd worked toward. Jordan was still asleep when I slipped out of bed, her dark hair spread across the pillow, face peaceful in unconsciousness. I showered quietly, got dressed in my suit, the charcoal gray one I'd bought specifically for this day, tailored to fit perfectly, and made coffee with the expensive beans I'd been saving for special occasions. She emerged from the bedroom around 8 a.m., still in her pajamas. "You're up early," she said, her voice carrying that same flat tone from the night before. "Big day, remember?" I replied, trying to inject some enthusiasm into the conversation, hoping it might be contagious. "Right, your thing." "My graduation, Jordan." "Yeah, that's what I meant." Something felt fundamentally off, but I pushed the feeling down. Figured she was just tired, maybe nervous about meeting my parents. First impressions can be stressful, especially when you're dating someone's son who's making a major career change at 36. I made breakfast for both of us, scrambled eggs with fresh herbs from our little garden, sourdough toast, fruit salad with strawberries and blueberries. The kind of weekend breakfast we used to enjoy together, lingering over coffee and planning our day. She ate in complete silence, scrolling through her phone the entire time. Every attempt I made at conversation fell flat. I asked about her plans for the following week, mentioned a new restaurant that had opened nearby, asked if she'd talked to her mom recently, suggested we grab dinner after the ceremony with my family at that Italian place downtown she'd mentioned wanting to try. Every question received a one-word answer or a non-committal shrug. The silence grew heavier with each failed attempt at connection. "I need to leave around 8:15, I said, checking my watch. "You should probably start getting ready soon. My parents are really looking forward to meeting you properly." "Yeah." "Okay." I finished my coffee, went over my presentation notes one final time, checked my phone obsessively. My parents had texted saying they had landed safely and were heading to their hotel before the ceremony. My brother Ian confirmed he was on the road, making good time, excited to see me walk across that stage. Everything was falling perfectly into place except for the person who was supposed to matter most. At 8:10, with 5 minutes until I absolutely had to leave, Jordan was still in her pajamas, the same faded gray ones she'd worn to bed, hair unbrushed, face unwashed, makeup nowhere to be seen. No sign whatsoever that she intended to get ready for anything, let alone the most important professional milestone of my adult life. "Hey, we need to leave in 5 minutes, I said, trying to keep the growing panic out of my voice. "You're not dressed." "I'm aware," she replied without looking up from her phone. Are you coming?" She looked at me then for the first time all morning. Really looked at me, and her expression was completely blank. Not angry, not sad, not apologetic. Just nothing. Empty. "I don't know. Do you really need me there?" The question hit me like a physical blow. "It's my graduation. Of course I need you there. We've been planning this for months. You have your parents, your brother. You'll be fine without me." "That's not the point, Jordan. You're my girlfriend. This is the most important day of my professional life. We talked about this ceremony for months. You helped me pick out my suit. Everything's important to you lately. Your classes, your projects, your networking events, your career pivot. What about what's important to me? This isn't the time for this conversation. I need to leave in 3 minutes." Then leave. "Are you seriously doing this right now? Today? Right now?" "I'm not doing anything. You're the one who's leaving." I grabbed my keys from the counter, my phone, my leather folder with presentation notes and backup slides. Took one long, disbelieving look at her standing there in her pajamas, arms crossed defensively, face set in stubborn defiance. 3 years of my life, and this was how she was going to handle the most important morning of my career. I need to go. Please be there. Please don't make me explain to my parents why my girlfriend of 3 years couldn't be bothered to show up. We'll see. Those 2 words carried such casual dismissal that I felt something break inside my chest. Not dramatically, not with fanfare, just a quiet snap like a rubber band stretched too far. I left without another word. Drove through morning Portland traffic with this sinking, spreading feeling in my stomach, like I'd swallowed something toxic. I tried desperately to shake it off, to focus on the day ahead. This was my moment. I'd worked too hard, sacrificed too much, invested too much money and energy to let Jordan's inexplicable mood destroy it. But the entire drive to Portland State, I kept glancing at my phone, waiting for a text saying she was running late but on her way, that she was sorry for the morning weirdness, that she'd figured out what to wear and would be there in time to see me speak, that she remembered how much this meant to me and wouldn't miss it for anything. Nothing came through. I arrived at the business school at 8:40, checked in with the ceremony coordinators, collected my presentation materials and graduation folder, found my assigned spot in the staging area. My classmates were buzzing with nervous excitement, taking selfies, hugging each other, making jokes about finally being done with the most intensive 8 months of our professional lives. I tried desperately to join in their enthusiasm, but my mind kept drifting to Jordan, sitting in our kitchen in her pajamas, scrolling through her phone like my graduation was just another Saturday morning. The contrast between my classmates' support for each other and my girlfriend's complete indifference felt stark and painful. At 9:45 a.m., 15 minutes before the ceremony was scheduled to begin, my phone buzzed against my leg. Text message from Jordan. I don't love you anymore. Consider this goodbye. I read it 3 times, standing there in my graduation gown, with my presentation materials clutched in my hands, surrounded by classmates who were excited and nervous and proud. I read those words over and over, each time hoping I'd misunderstood, that autocorrect had somehow scrambled a supportive message into this devastating sentence. The processional music was starting to play through the auditorium speakers. People around me were straightening their caps, adjusting their gowns, forming orderly lines. The ceremony coordinator was moving through the staging area with her clipboard, doing final head counts and reminding speakers about microphone protocol. Another text came through before I could fully process the first one. I should have told you sooner. I've been feeling this way for months. I can't keep pretending anymore. 15 minutes before the ceremony. 15 minutes before I was supposed to walk across that stage and accept recognition for 8 months of grinding work. 15 minutes before I was supposed to speak on behalf of my entire cohort. She'd chosen this exact moment, this precise timing to detonate our 3-year relationship. The ceremony coordinator was calling for all speakers to line up for final sound checks. I was supposed to be moving toward the microphone testing station. Behind me, someone asked if I was okay, their voice sounding distant and concerned. I nodded automatically, couldn't form words, just nodded while my brain tried to process what was happening. This had to be some kind of mistake, some kind of misunderstanding. People don't end serious relationships via text message 15 minutes before major life events. They just don't. But even as I thought it, I knew better. Jordan had planned this timing deliberately. She'd known exactly when my ceremony started, had sat in our kitchen in her pajamas, calculating the maximum emotional damage she could inflict. This wasn't impulsive. This was strategic. I typed back with trembling fingers. Understood. That was it. Just understood. Not, what do you mean? Not, can we talk about this? Not, please don't do this today. Just acceptance of her decision, clean and simple and final. Then I put my phone on silent, slipped it into my gown pocket, and walked into that auditorium with my classmates like my entire life hadn't just imploded. The ceremony passed in a complete blur. I heard my name called for the speaking portion, walked to the podium on autopilot, delivered every word of my prepared remarks about perseverance and transformation and seizing new opportunities. Got a standing ovation, heard my name called again for certificate presentation, walked across the stage, shook hands with the dean, smiled for the photographer, accepted my certificate folder like it was the most natural thing in the world. The whole time, I felt completely numb, utterly disconnected from everything happening around me. My body was going through all the motions, while my mind was stuck on that text message, replaying it endlessly, trying to understand how someone could spend 3 years with you and choose that moment to end it. After the ceremony concluded, my family found me in the reception area. James and Susan were beaming with pride, kept saying how articulate I'd been during my speech, how professionally I'd carried myself. Ian clapped me on the back hard enough to knock me forward a step, made some joke about me being the family overachiever, said they were officially out of graduation gifts after the second degree. "That was incredible, son," James said, pulling me into one of his rare hugs. "We're so proud of what you've accomplished." "Your speech was perfect," Susan added, her eyes bright with maternal pride. "I got it all on video to send to your grandmother." They looked around expectantly, scanning the crowd of graduates and families. "Where's Jordan?" Susan asked. I was so looking forward to finally meeting her properly. The question I'd been dreading. "She couldn't make it," I managed to say. "Something came up at the last minute." My mother's expression immediately shifted to concern. "Is everything okay? She seemed so excited about today when we talked on the phone last month." "Yeah, everything's fine. Just work stuff. You know how it is." James frowned. "On a Saturday morning? What kind of emergency happens in communications on a weekend?" "I don't know the details," I said, hating how easily the lies came. "She just couldn't make it." Ian was studying my face with the sharp attention of someone who'd grown up reading my moods. "Are you sure you're okay? You seem off." "Just tired, long morning, big presentation. I'm fine." None of them looked convinced, but they let it drop. We walked to the parking garage together, made plans to meet at the restaurant I'd chosen weeks ago for our celebration lunch. The same restaurant where Jordan was supposed to meet my family properly for the first time, where we were supposed to toast my new career trajectory and talk about our future plans. At the restaurant, I sat through 2 hours of family conversation on complete autopilot. James talked enthusiastically about job market opportunities in digital marketing, asking detailed questions about salary ranges and growth potential. Susan kept taking photos and making plans to frame my certificate. Ian told embarrassing stories from our childhood and speculated about what I'd study next, since I seemed addicted to school, normal family celebration stuff, the kind of supportive, loving attention I'd been looking forward to sharing with Jordan. Instead, I was managing a performance, nodding and smiling and participating while internally falling apart. I excused myself twice to check my phone in the bathroom, hoping for some kind of follow-up message, some explanation or apology or acknowledgement of what she'd done. Nothing. Complete radio silence after destroying my day. When I finally got back to our house around 4 p.m., Jordan's car was gone from the driveway. Most of her belongings were still scattered throughout our shared spaces, but her laptop was missing, along with her phone charger, her favorite leather jacket, and the expensive running shoes she'd bought last month. The essentials. Like she'd planned exactly what to grab and when. I sat on our couch and finally allowed myself to feel the full weight of what had happened. She'd ended a 3-year relationship via text message, 15 minutes before one of the most important moments of my professional life. Couldn't even wait until after the ceremony. Couldn't even give me the basic human dignity of a face-to-face conversation. 3 years of shared meals, shared mortgage payments, shared dreams about our future together. Gone in 2 text messages timed for maximum emotional destruction. I opened my phone and systematically began dismantling our digital relationship. Blocked her number first, then moved methodically through every social media platform. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, everything. Deleted our photos, all 847 of them stored in my phone's memory. 3 years of couple selfies, vacation pictures, holiday celebrations, random moments I'd thought were worth preserving forever. Gone, erased, like they'd never existed. Then I went through the house, room by room, collecting everything that was unmistakably hers. Clothes, toiletries, books, kitchen gadgets she'd insisted we needed. That ridiculous decorative pillow collection she'd scattered across our bed. I packed it all methodically into boxes, labeled each one clearly, stacked them neatly in the spare bedroom we'd converted into her home office space. Professional, organized, final. By Sunday evening, I felt nothing. Not sad, not angry, just completely empty. Like someone had performed surgery on my emotional center and removed everything vital. I made coffee, worked out in our garage gym, meal prepped for the work week ahead. Treated it like any other weekend, maintaining routine and structure when everything else felt chaotic. My phone rang around 1 p.m., unknown number. I almost declined the call, but something made me answer. Hello? Logan, it's me. Jordan's voice calling from someone else's phone. How did you get this number? I borrowed my friend's phone. You blocked me everywhere. Yes, I did. We need to talk about what happened. No, we don't. You said what you needed to say yesterday. I accepted your decision. We're done. You can't just block me and act like I don't exist. I can actually. You ended our relationship. I'm respecting that decision completely. I didn't mean we couldn't communicate anymore. What exactly did you think "consider this goodbye" meant? Silence on her end for several seconds. I meant we're breaking up, not that you'd shut me out completely from your life. That's exactly what a breakup is, Jordan. We're done. No more contact. No more shared anything. But my stuff is still at the house. My books, my clothes, everything. It's packed and ready for pickup. Text me when you want to collect it and I'll make sure I'm not here. This is ridiculous, Logan. You're being completely childish about this. I'm being clear and direct. You don't love me anymore. You said goodbye. So, goodbye. I hung up immediately and blocked that number too. She tried calling from 2 more different numbers over the next 24 hours. I blocked both without answering, feeling a little less affected each time. The emotional numbness was becoming protective armor. Monday morning, I walked into my new position at the digital marketing agency that had recruited me specifically because of my fresh certification. My boss congratulated me on graduating, asked how the ceremony had gone. My new team had decorated my desk with balloons and bought celebration cupcakes for the break room. It was exactly the kind of professional recognition and support I'd been hoping to share with Jordan. Instead, I experienced it surrounded by colleagues who genuinely cared about my success. People who'd known me for 3 weeks but had shown up more meaningfully than my girlfriend of 3 years. Tuesday afternoon, she appeared at my office building. Security called me down to the lobby, explaining that a woman claiming to be my girlfriend was demanding to see me and refusing to leave when told I wasn't available. She's not my girlfriend, I told security firmly. We broke up. Please ask her to leave. She's insisting she'll wait as long as necessary. If she won't leave voluntarily, call the police. She left before law enforcement became necessary, but not before creating enough of a scene that several coworkers asked me what was happening. I gave them the condensed version, ex-girlfriend having difficulty accepting that our relationship had ended. I'd blocked her on all platforms. She was escalating to workplace harassment. My supervisor was completely supportive, offering to implement additional security protocols if needed. We added Jordan's photo to the building's Do Not Admit database and updated visitor policies. Professional, efficient, embarrassing for her. It's been 6 weeks since graduation now. 6 weeks since that text message changed everything. I'm settled into my downtown loft apartment, month to month initially, while I figured out exactly where I wanted to establish my new life permanently. Better security, doorman, underground parking, somewhere she couldn't just appear uninvited. The job exceeded every expectation. I received a promotion opportunity within my first month, leading a major client's complete digital transformation initiative. The kind of career advancement that would have been impossible without that certification she couldn't be bothered to see. Me receive. I've been dating again, nothing serious yet, just coffee meetings and casual dinners. It feels good to spend time with people who show up when they say they will, who ask thoughtful questions about my work, who demonstrate basic respect for my time and energy. Someone asked me recently if I miss Jordan. Honest answer, no. I miss the idea of who I thought she was, the version I'd constructed over 3 years of shared experiences. But the real Jordan, the one who sent that text at that precise moment, designed to inflict maximum damage, I don't miss her at all. She texted, "Consider this goodbye," expecting me to fight for her, to chase her, to prove my love through desperation. Instead, I considered her request carefully and agreed completely. Best decision I ever made. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Thanks for watching.